سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. قل رب زدني علما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولكل وجهة هو موليها فاستبقوا الخيرات أينما تكونوا يأتي بكم الله جميعا إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وإنه للحق من ربك وما الله بغافل عما تعملون. ومن حيث خرجت فول وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وحيث ما كنتم فولوا وجوهكم شطره لئلا يكون للناس عليكم حجة إلا الذين ظلموا منهم فلا تخشوهم واخشوني وليتم نعمتي عليكم ولعلكم تشكرون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So we are continuing with the narrative of the Qibla and the number of issues regarding the Qibla, which has been going on for some time now, for several days now. There's 2 points we wanted to bring up regarding these verses today, and that is, number one, that the people of the book, they would not follow our Qibla regardless of the proofs and the confirmation of the fact that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not going to follow us. So we don't get into arguments. Since we're not going to change our stance, and those who are abstinently opposing our stance, they're not going to change their stance. So what do? We continue with our stance, and we continue with what we know is right. And we don't engage in useless and unnecessary arguments. This is a very critical thing that we should understand. Because what happens is when we diverge or we condescend to arguments which are not really going to bring about any fruit, they're not going to bring about any meaningful outcome. So what happens is we get engaged in issues which don't have an outcome, and we get distracted from issues which do have an outcome. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. So we should actually be focused on moving in the direction of righteous action and hastening therein. Okay? And so also it's mentioned in these ayats that we should فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, so hasten towards righteous action, and particularly in context of the Qibla, hastening towards the most righteous action after Iman, and that is Salat. And so the question comes up, so offering Salat at the very beginning of the time would hence, be understood to be the preferable course, right? Now, this also needs to be explained a little bit, because there are various opinions in this, because when do we start the Salat? For example, Salat al-Fajr. The beginning of the time is, let's say, suppose 5:26. So do we want to offer Salat as soon as the Salat comes in? This is one stance. Another stance is that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam has in various instances mentioned particular injunctions or particular preferences for particular Salats for particular reasons. For example, Salat al-Fajr, he mentions Asfiru bil-Fajr فَإِنَّهُ أَعْظَمُ أَجْرًا, that offer your Salat al-Fajr when it becomes more light, because it will be more rewarding for you. So what does that mean? So the ulama have mentioned that perhaps by waiting somewhat for the Fajr to become more prevalent, so it becomes easier for people to come and more people join. And we know from Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that the larger Jamaat is more preferable to the smaller Jamaat. 4 people is more preferable and virtuous than 2, and 40 is much better than 4, and so forth and so on. So if we have the expectation that we'll get more people at a particular time, this becomes more preferable than having the Salat at the earlier time. Similarly, in Salat al-Dhuhr, In the summer months, it's very hot. And at the zenith, it's at the extremity of heat in the day. So as the sun moves towards the west, so that the temperature starts to cool off, and so now it will be more comfortable, and probably again more people will attend the congregation. So Nabi alayhi salatu also mentions, "Abridu bis salati فإن شدة الحر من فيه جهنم." That this shiddat al-har is actually, it is a reflection of the fire of Jahannam. So wait for that heat to subside somewhat, and then offer your Salat al-Dhuhr. So this would come to play in the summer months, whereas in the winter months, offering in the very beginning of the time, this wouldn't come to play there. Okay. Similarly in Salat al-Isha, Salat al-Maghrib, that's muttafiq. At the beginning of the time as far as possible. Again, beginning of the time when the time starts. So we have to be careful in Maghrib if we call the adhan, or particularly when Ramadan is coming. If we are going to call the adhan, or we break the fast before the time, salat and our fasting will be nullified. If it's 1 minute before the sun sets, our whole day of fasting, in the summer months it could be 16, 18 hours, that will all be spoiled and gone to waste. To wait 2-3 minutes extra after Maghrib, there's no issue. That's to be preferred. Before the time is not going to work. After the time, there's no issue. Okay, that's Maghrib. So a few minutes after Maghrib we should wait, and then proceed with fasting and Salat. Okay, Salat al-Isha. Again, Nabi alayhi salatu has been seen sometimes offering at the very beginning of its time. Many times Nabi alayhi salatu was offering Isha later, up to the third of the night. And in fact, he's mentioned, had it not been a difficulty for my ummah, I would have held back the Salat al-Isha after a third of the night has passed. So, the beginning of the time of Salat will be the beginning of the time which is preferred. Either the actual beginning of the time, or the time preferred as shown by the practice or the saying of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So with that understanding, so we have also, developed a schedule for our Salat timings, keeping all of those issues in mind, and hopefully that will be soon to be published, inshallah. So be looking for that, and it's also obviously going to be published on the website and on the app. So jazakumullah khair, wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalamu alaikum.